Okay, so you want to buy a football club, find a stadium, sign some players, watch the fans pack in every weekend. Simple enough. But here's the strange part. A football club is one of the only businesses on earth where your customers will genuinely love you for spending money on the product and still demand you spend more, where the asset you own can double in value without you doing a single thing right, and where some of the wealthiest, most powerful people on the planet have walked in with billions and walked out having lost everything. Football clubs are the most emotionally valuable assets in the world. A man will pass his season ticket to his son like it's a family heirloom. Governments will sanction a billionaire, and his first call to his lawyers is, "Don't touch the club." And yet, the majority of football clubs at every level lose money every single year. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly how that's possible, how football clubs actually make money, why owning one is almost nothing like owning a normal business, why there's an invisible financial cage that traps every owner the moment they sign, and why the two biggest mistakes in football ownership keep destroying people who should know better. Football clubs come in three sizes, and they are three completely different businesses. The smallest entry point, a League Two club in England. We're talking clubs like Salford City or Carlisle United. Purchase price anywhere from £1 million to £10 million. For that money, you get a stadium that holds maybe 5,000 people, a squad of players earning a few £1,000s a week, and a fan base that will follow the team through relegation, administration, and ownership disasters, because they have no choice. It's their club. Step up one tier, a championship club, the second division of English football. This is where it gets interesting. A mid-table championship side will cost you £30 million to £100 million. Think Middlesbrough, Coventry, Norwich, real cities, real fan bases, real history. But here's the catch. These clubs sit one promotion away from the most lucrative league on earth and one bad season away from financial collapse. That gap is what drives almost every decision and almost every mistake. And then there's the Premier League, where the price tag starts getting genuinely surreal. A relegation-threatened Premier League club, minimum £100 million. A mid-table side like Aston Villa or Crystal Palace, £300 to £500 million. And the top six? Arsenal, Chelsea, Liverpool, Manchester City, Manchester United, Tottenham. Those conversations start at $3 billion and go up from there. Chelsea sold in 2022 for $4.25 billion. At the time, the most expensive sports team sale in history. For context, that's more than the entire GDP of about 30 countries. But the purchase price is just the beginning. There are two more costs nobody warns you about before you sign. The first is the owners and directors test. In England, the Premier League and the EFL both require prospective financial, criminal, and reputational background checks. Not automatic, not quick. It took over a year for Newcastle United's Saudi-led consortium to get approved. And the process doesn't cost nothing. Legal fees alone run into the millions before you own a single share. The second cost is what happens the day after you buy. Agents call, players' contracts expire, the manager wants a meeting, the stadium roof is leaking, and your new fans, who have never met you, don't trust you, and have been burned by 3 previous owners, are already making banners. You don't own a business. You've inherited a city's emotional infrastructure, and the city has opinions. Now we get to the question that actually matters. Where does the money come from? A football club has 3 revenue streams, and most people get the order wrong. The biggest one, at the elite level, is broadcasting. The Premier League sold its domestic TV rights for £6.7 billion over 4 years. And that's before international deals. That money gets split between the 20 clubs every season. Every single Premier League club, regardless of where they finish, automatically receives around £97 million in equal broadcast payments per year. The champions get more. But even the worst team in the league still gets over £100 million. just to exist in the Premier League is worth over £100 million before a single ticket is sold. The second revenue stream is commercial. Shirt sponsorships, kit deals, stadium naming rights. Manchester United's shirt sponsor is worth around £60 million a year. Manchester City's stadium naming rights deal, hundreds of millions. These numbers are real. They are also completely out of reach for most clubs on earth. Third, matchday revenue, tickets, hospitality boxes, food, drinks. For Arsenal, matchday generates over £100 million a season. For a League Two club, it might be £500,000 in a good year. Same sport, same rules, completely different economics. And then there's the wild card every owner fantasizes about, the transfer market. Football clubs are one of the only businesses on earth where employees can be sold at a profit, sometimes an enormous one. Brighton bought Moises Caicedo for around £4 million. 3 years later, Chelsea bought him for over £100 million. That single deal generated more money than most clubs make in an entire year. But here's what the fantasy misses. The transfer market is not a revenue stream, it's a gamble. For every superstar sale, there are dozens of expensive signings that fail completely. Players get injured, lose form, or leave for free, and the financial damage never really stops. Now here's the section almost nobody outside football fully understands. Financial fair play, or in the Premier League, profitability and sustainability rules. The idea sounds simple. You can only lose so much money over a certain period before the league punishes you. Sounds reasonable, until you realize what newly promoted clubs are forced to do. The moment you reach the Premier League, you have to compete. You need better players, higher wages, bigger transfer fees. But the rules limit how much money you can lose while trying to survive. So clubs walk a financial tightrope every single season. Get it wrong, and the punishment is brutal. Everton lost points for breaking the rules. Manchester City are facing over 100 financial charges. This is the invisible cage. You buy the club, you spend to compete. The rules limit your losses, and if you miscalculate, the league punishes you financially and competitively at the same time. Now here's the biggest problem of all. Football clubs don't behave like normal businesses. A normal business raises prices when demand goes up. A football club that raises ticket prices too aggressively gets protested by its own fans. A normal business cuts costs when revenue falls. A football club that cuts costs too hard loses matches and risks relegation, which destroys revenue even faster. At healthy companies, wages might be 30 to 40% of revenue. At football clubs, 60, 70, sometimes over 100%. Some clubs literally spend more on wages than they earn. Every single year, you are not running a business. You are managing a loss that fans expect you to be grateful for. Football clubs fail for a lot of reasons, but two mistakes show up over and over again. The first, using debt to buy the club. In 2005, the Glazer family bought Manchester United using borrowed money, then shifted much of that debt onto the club itself. A club that had been debt-free suddenly owed hundreds of millions. Over time, Manchester United paid enormous amounts in interest alone. Money that bought no players, improved nothing, built nothing. The maths always catches up eventually. The second mistake, not understanding what you actually bought. In 2010, an Indian poultry company bought Blackburn Rovers, former Premier League champions. Within a short time, poor decisions, bad management, and disconnect with the fans pushed the club into decline. Eventually, they dropped multiple divisions, and the owners lost hundreds of millions. They bought a football club without understanding football culture, and football punishes that kind of ignorance very publicly. Here's the whole business in one sentence. A football club is a money-losing passion asset that occasionally becomes one of the best long-term investments on earth. If you're patient enough, rich enough, and lucky enough to never get relegated. Every decision, the manager, the players, the ticket prices, the stadium, exists to stop the entire structure from collapsing. So how much money can you actually make? Scenario 1. A small League Two club. Revenue, maybe £3 to £5 million a year. Profit usually close to zero, sometimes negative. This is not really an investment. It's a community institution you subsidize because you care about it. But if you climb divisions successfully, the value of the club can multiply dramatically. Now, scenario 2. A mid-table Premier League club worth £500 million annual revenue, £200 to £350 million. Huge money, but also huge costs. Massive wage bills, transfers, infrastructure, agents. Most Premier League clubs are not consistently profitable businesses. The real money comes from the value of the asset itself. As the Premier League becomes richer globally, club valuations keep rising. And if you survive long enough, the rewards can become extraordinary. Roman Abramovich bought Chelsea in 2003 for around £140 million. Over nearly 2 decades, he spent billions. But in 2022, Chelsea sold for over $4 billion for a business that rarely made consistent profit. Football isn't really a business, it's a long game, where the asset is the prize. So if you ever decide to buy a football club, remember the most important rule of this industry. The fans do not care if you make money, they care if you understand the club. Get it right, and they'll name stands after you. Get it wrong, and they'll protest outside your stadium for decades. Just make sure you know which one you're signing up for.